I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hello, American Patriots, and welcome to another episode of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places you could be tonight, but you chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Tonight's show, my guest is going to be Congressman Clay Higgins, but before we bring on the Congressman, I would like to remind everyone about what is happening at the moment down in Florida. Please keep your thoughts and prayers going for those that are in harm's way. Here in Louisiana, I personally lived through Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Laura, Hurricane Delta, and then a massive flood that came and did a lot of damage to everything we had. So I'm very, very familiar with hurricanes and what they can do. And some of the worst part is the tornadoes that spun out of them. I've got family and friends that are down in Florida, and we also have one of our own moderators for the show, Doc, is down there with his family. So look, if you are thinking about evacuating and you're, let's say, south of Tampa, my suggestion is get out of there while you can. They're very, very devastating, and you don't need to take chances on that. Anyhow, let's please keep them in our thoughts and prayers throughout the next 24, 48 hours. I believe tomorrow is official landfall tomorrow evening. Although currently right now, the outer bands of this hurricane are producing tornadoes all over South Florida. So it's going to be pretty devastating. It's a Category 3 at the moment. They're expecting it to be a Category 4. Had it went left and not right and came towards Louisiana or Texas, it would have had time to possibly even become a Category 5, which would have been just massive devastation above and beyond what's already going to happen to South Florida. So our thoughts and prayers are with all of you. Folks, let me tell you about my guest tonight. Congressman Clay Higgins is a Republican member of the U.S. House of Representatives representing South Louisiana. After graduating from high school, he attended LSU and went on to serve in the United States Army, Louisiana National Guard, as a military police officer. And he attained the rank of E6 Staff Sergeant. Higgins had many successful years in business, returned to uniformed service as a street officer, police officer in 2004. He worked patrol, primarily night shift, and was well-known SWAT operator. Prior to joining Congress in 2017, Higgins is best known for his Crime Stopper videos from the St. Landry Parish Sheriff's Office. And if you haven't seen those, let me suggest you check them out because they're pretty damn good. The program was one of the most successful in the history of law enforcement. Most of the featured crimes were solved, and what was most significant was that many of the suspects responded to Uncle Clay's message of redemption and turned themselves in. Congressman Higgins continues today to actively serve as a captain, retaining in law enforcement, his commission, and his Louisiana State Post certification. As a veteran and highly decorated law enforcement officer, Congressman Higgins continues to protect and serve in the nation's capital. He is a member of the House Homeland Security Committee and the House Oversight and Reform Committee. A committed constitutionalist, Congressman Higgins believes in restoring the federal government envisioned by our founding fathers. Higgins believes in smaller government, less bureaucracy, free markets, a strong national defense, and securing America's borders. From Morgan City to the Texas line, Congressman Higgins has sworn a sacred oath to protect and serve the people of South Louisiana. With that, please, I'd like to welcome Congressman Higgins. Thank you so much for joining me tonight and for your service to America in the military, in law enforcement, and as a member of Congress. You're a great American patriot.
I'm happy to join you, brother. It's great to be on your show. And, you know, you opened with comments about Florida. And I lived down there for a period of time, just outside of Tampa, a little area called Newport Richey. I was employed by a commercial plumbing operation. We were plumbing the maximum security prison that was under construction there. And I boxed with a club called Spitfire Boxing Academy. We'd go down to the Tampa fights on Friday nights. And I have people down there that I love. I consider family, and uh, it's amazing how when we face great challenge like an incoming hurricane, how we bond together as people and community. Now the entire nation reacts, and we're prepared to help. We send in help. We're standing by to help, waiting to see what happens, and we're with those people. So it's reflective of the sort of unbreakable bond, the American spirit. And I'm glad you opened your show with the acknowledging what the people of Florida face, because in a way that's the sort of tempest that our entire nation faces from within, the challenges that threaten our republic and our individual rights and freedoms, the sovereignty of our states, the stability and security of our nation, the future for our children and grandchildren. It's all threatened, and yet, you know, we face that storm united as American patriots. So I'm happy to be with you tonight.
Excellent and well said, sir. And I agree 100%. You know, we before we started the show, folks, we had a moment to make sure our video and our sounds are doing good, and talk briefly about some of the things we had in common. You know, we both have a passion for this country. Both served in the military. I did only 3 years as a military police officer. The rest was in aviation. Yours was the whole time as a military police officer. You know, then I went on to helicopters. We both served in law enforcement. You were with St. Landry Parish Sheriff's Office. I was with San Mateo County Sheriff's Office out in California. And we both share the same barber. So it is very unique and nice to talk to another American patriot like yourself that we align so well with. One of the things that is affecting all of America that you have recently spoke up about in Congress, and I thank you for it, is what's happening to our oil and gas industry. And here in the South, in Louisiana and Texas, we manufacture a lot of that. I want to read a press release real quick and get you to comment on that. It was September 15th of just a few days ago. Says Congressman Clay Higgins responded to Democrats' attack on the oil and gas industry during a House Oversight Committee hearing this week. Congressman Higgins slammed lawsuits aimed at blocking new energy infrastructure development and emphasized that oil and gas production in the United States is among the cleanest in the world. Every energy project in Louisiana has got to set aside a large percentage of its projected budget to defend against lawsuits. Every pipeline, every LNG plant, every petrochemical expansion, every one of them, for a small company to have to set aside $1 million, $2 million because of a toxic level environment in Louisiana, because Democrats and climate activists love to sue petrochemical projects and energy projects, including LNG plants, which represent the hope of the entire world to reduce emissions. Nowhere is it done more clean than the United States of America. It's where you get your energy from. It's where you get your petrochemical products from. everything you use, everything you're wearing, your clothes, your shoes, your glasses, your phone, your iPad, the vehicle you drive in, planes you fly on, all of that requires petrochemical products and the energy that's drawn out of Louisiana. So, yeah, we have pipelines. That's the steadfast means by which to transport energy product. It's safer than rail. It's safer than vehicle. It's safer than water. The entire world has reduced emissions because of LNG products out of Louisiana. But an energy company cannot come into Louisiana without getting sued by the left. That is one of the greatest statements I've ever read, which was your speech on the floor on the 15th. And here's my question. How do we, as Republicans and conservatives, I'm banking that midterms, I truly believe that Republicans are going to win back the House and the Senate. But God forbid if we don't. Do you see any way that we can work with this administration and these Democrats to try and come to some kind of middle ground to realize that although solar would be great and wind energy would be great and electric cars would be great, it's not feasibly possible in today's world, especially considering that it's going to take, like you said, oil and gas to make these products to even move forward with.
Well, my brother, the problem with seeking reasonable compromise with my Democrat colleagues in this era is that what they consider reasonable compromise is for me to step into the socialist ideological perspective, and that's just not going to happen.
Right.
There was a time in America historically, generally there was always passionate debate, vigorous debate, disagreement across our country, certainly in Congress, and that vigorous debate was followed by a reasonable compromise. But it was a compromise between two parties that were much closer to each other in as far as ideological perspective goes. The Democrat Party is the entity that has stepped further and further towards the left. The Republican Party has wavered, more moderate and more conservative in modern history. We're certainly in the height of a conservative swing, which I'm glad to be a part of. I'm considered one of the most conservative constitutionalists in Congress. So, from my perspective, I'm glad that the Republican Party, the center of gravity, has shifted to the right. However, I'm acknowledging as intellectually that the Republican Party, although it does waver from year to year, it stays within the conservative spectrum, and the Democratic Party always had a very moderate, what would be considered by today's standards conservative faction, a powerful faction within the Democratic Party, and those guys have been voted out. There's no moderates left in the Democrat Party in Congress. They've moved further and further to the left. So it's very difficult to compromise with a colleague that is determined to embrace a socialist agenda. And I'm just not stepping over there.
Right.
So energy, is one area where ironically we actually should be more aligned. And if the Democrat Party was more reasonable in its posture, as they seek to address ecological concerns for the entire planet, then they should embrace the American energy industry and American petrochemical industry, because consumption of energy product is not going to go away. Consumption of petrochemical product is certainly going to continue, and that's worldwide. And you look at the Earth's energy producers. There's the United States and India and China and Russia and Brazil. And where is it done the cleanest for the entire world? It's right here in the United States. So if we could have a reasonable agreement, which we should, that energy consumption is going to continue, and if we could agree and acknowledge that the need and requirement for petrochemical product is going to continue, and if we concur that we all have ecological concerns, we want a clean planet, we want clean air and clean water, we want a clean earth. We are mandated by principle to nourish and maintain our planet. If we could agree upon that, then we should agree that we all support the American energy industry. But the very fact that the Democrats take the opposing view reveals the fact that they don't really care about the planet. Because if they did, then they would support the American energy industry. So, you talk about compromise, and if we could step back from the political battle, we should be able to find a common ground here. And yet, the left is determined to attack and litigate against and destroy the American oil and gas industry and the American petrochemical industry. And what we all get out of that battle with them is a planet that's more precariously um, positioned. Like right now, you have Germany firing up coal plants, man. Why? Because they were not intelligent in securing reliable, affordable fossil fuel energy product to run their nation on, and to provide warmth, electricity for their citizenry. So they're panicked right now because Nord Stream 1 is compromised by politics. Nord Stream 2 is compromised by politics and sabotage. And there's the American energy production has been restricted by the Biden administration. Western Europe is finding themselves dependent upon Russian energy product, which is 40% dirtier, by the way, than it's far less clean than American LNG product. The natural gas that they send in is is not good for the world, although natural gas, and generally speaking, is far cleaner as an energy product than what you saw in the 20th century. So the the Democrats on the other side of this spectrum are just wrong. They're wrong, wrong, wrong. Their agenda is bad for the planet. It's bad for America. It injures American families. And I'm going to continue to attempt to be a voice of reason with them, perfectly willing to seek common ground as long as that common ground puts America first.
Amen. And it kind of reminds me, this whole what we're going through right now with them. And when I say them, I say the Democrats and the liberals, which I blame it on a infiltration of the liberal ideology into the Democrat Party. It reminds me of the same debate that we have when it comes to our amendment rights with our guns, and how it's difficult to reason with them. But anyhow, I want to share with everybody a press release that you put out, and something that happened also in Congress back on September 18th. It says, during a House Oversight Committee hearing last week, Congressman Clay Higgins dismantled the arguments of energy justice activist, New York attorney Araya Salter. On back-to-back days, Democrats staged hearings to attack the American energy industry and promote Green New Deal agendas. Louisiana was particularly targeted by the activists On the second panel of the second day, Ms. Salter delivered her opening statements and called for the immediate elimination of American oil and gas petrochemical industry. She also claimed that American energy production is racist and was pursuing mass extinction. Her opening statement was delivered with seething hate. She was trembling, unhinged with Green Deal madness. During his allotted 5 minutes, Congressman Higgins responded to the aggressive attacks on American oil and gas production and Louisiana energy jobs. He destroyed the insane positions of their star witness, and the Green New Deal industry was clearly revealed. The modern world runs on oil and gas, and virtually everything, everywhere, contains petrochemical products. When asked how she would account for this, Ms. Salter was unable to answer and instead deflected, restoring to the Democrat playbook and reiterated into her prepared notes. Congressman Higgins made her look inept because that's what's happening when Democrats are faced with hard truth. When radicals show up in front of my committee with an attitude talking anti-American trash, they can expect to get handled. I really don't care if I hurt anyone's feelings while I'm fighting to preserve our republic. Congressman Higgins said after the hearing, leftist activists may run over other elected officials, but they're not running over me. That right there is presidential talk. And I like it, brother.
Well, I tell you, I'll be in Mar-a-Lago in a couple of weeks. I'll tell the president that you said that. So, my brother, listen. When we were MPs and when we were cops, occasionally, we had to deal with the mentally ill, right?
Yep.
And we learned to have compassion and patience with these people. So that's how I really felt about Miss Salter. She's suffering from from mental illness, obviously, and also called Green New Deal liberalism, and therefore I wanted to give her an opportunity to just answer simple questions and sort of seek reason. I thought about bringing some of those wooden blocks that we used to teach children. You know what I'm saying, with the letters,
Right. Yeah.
to help her grasp the reality of the world, that what her agenda was proposing was completely absurd and detached from reality, and sort of try and help her step it back into kind of a spectrum of reason. So that didn't work because leftist activists like Miss Salter and her pal AOC, they don't respond well to intellectual reason and debate. They immediately revert to the old search your heart. Listen, we're not in church, okay? We're in Congress. I'm not here to search my heart or your heart. We're here to debate important issues for the American people, and indeed the entire world is watching what we're doing. And the left is laying out, presenting this insane agenda of shutting down the oil and gas industry, like immediately in America. The petrochemical industry, they can't even get their head wrapped around that their little electric cars are 1,000% reliant upon the fossil fuel industry to provide the energy to the grid that they can plug it in and charge the car with, and 1,000% reliant upon petrochemical products to build their little electric car as well. It's like you're really talking to a childish mentality that they sort of stomp their feet and cross their arms, and it's difficult to present uh, intellectual, reasonable debate to them to help bring them back to reality because they're so married to the passion of that agenda, which is quite anti-American. And may I say that the world's economic prosperity, including in the darkest areas of our planet where poverty is crippling citizenry there. The only path out of that is through the availability of abundant, affordable energy. And and therefore the cornerstone of prosperity for the entire human race will continue to be the availability of a reliable energy product. So if you care about your fellow man across the world, then you should support the American energy industry and the American petrochemical industry. And if you care about the ecological stability and and abundant future, healthy future of our planet, then you should support the American fossil
Right.
fuel energy industry and the American petrochemical industry. These are solid, simple truths. I'll debate anybody, anywhere, across the globe about this, and my position will win because I'm right.
I agree. And, I understand that y'all supplied coloring books and crayons, and she ate the crayons. So, you just you can't
Well,
win in that situation.
she's AOC's, BFF or whatever. That's what they
Yeah,
call
yeah.
it these days. And
Yeah, I think
so
that's what they're referring to.
we,
Yeah. Um,
yeah, we do our best with the mentally ill, do we not? We
I hear you.
do our best.
I
Yeah,
want to talk about HR 8952. This is something that is very dear to my heart because I went down to the border. We've done several documentaries on what's happening on the border. September 23rd, 2022 press release says Congressman Clay Higgins joined Congresswoman Kate. Is it Kamak? Is that how she pronounces that? I don't want to get that wrong.
Kamek, Cat
Kamak.
Kamek, yeah,
Okay, Kamak. Republican,
Florida.
Florida, and 11 other House
Yeah,
Republican colleagues to introduce H.R. 8952, Justified Action for Securing Our Nations Act. The bill would provide the Secretary of Homeland Security with the authority to prevent the entry of aliens in the event of a surge in apprehensions at U.S. land borders, public health emergencies in the U.S. due to an outbreak that could qualify as a pandemic, the dissolution or failure of a national government in the Western Hemisphere, or immediate, imminent foreign terror threat to the United States. We're witnessing the worst border crisis in the history of our nation, and Joe Biden refuses to secure the border. I'm proud to join Congresswoman on this bill to strengthen our border security capabilities. Providing Department of Homeland Security with expanded authority to halt migrant crossings during times of crisis is critical to reestablish operational control at the border. This is certainly a time of crisis at the southern border, and our legislation would provide much needed support to frontline law enforcement. Um, one, one of the things, I guess, is 8952, the way I read it, is outstanding. And if we do win back at midterms, I see this going straight up, especially when the time comes in 2024, if we can get back 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. My concern right now is that Biden would never sign it. And, we have a president and a vice president who has made the czar of the border that refused to even go down there and talk to our Border Patrol agents. I've interviewed several of them. I've interviewed their union representatives, and they're dumbfounded. Why will they not come? Not just them, but the only people that go down there on the border in the dirt and see it firsthand are Republicans. And the Democrats refuse to do that. They will go to, where there's people being held in a temporary facility, and they will call it cages, built under Trump when it wasn't. It was built under Obama. And they will falsely accuse law enforcement of things, such as AOC saying that they were catcalling her. I mean, it's insane what they're doing. Thank you, first off, both of you and the Congresswoman, for putting this bill forward. And I can only pray that it gets traction and that Democrats will look at this. And if you just got enough to come on board to get it to the president's desk, maybe he would realize that. But I just believe that right now we're stuck and stupid, and there's just no moving out of that category.
Well, let me give you a little uplifting. Let me give you some hope, okay? And the
Please.
Americans watching. The bill you're referring to, and others, the Finish All Act, and there's a lot of legislation that Republicans will successfully move through Congress that will enhance our ability to quickly resecure the border, because we have lost operational control of a year and a half ago, and the entire nation is suffering because of it. And I'm telling you, generationally, there will be, we're losing our country at the southern border. And
Right.
and the reality is that America is going to survive. But I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a different country. When we're done with Biden, as we look back, reflect on where we are right now, say a decade from now, there will be, I believe, a sort of a pre-Biden America and a post-Biden America. They're doing so much damage so quickly, our country, that although we will survive because we're an anointed nation, and we're Americans, man, we're badass. We're going to survive. I promise you, Americans and patriots are not lying down. We're going to preserve our republic for our children, but they have certainly injured us generationally, nowhere more so than at the border. So the bill you're referring to can move when Republicans have majority, and of course, no, President Biden will not sign a bill like that into law. But listen to what's hopeful. Like any large corporate operation, the cartels, very well organized and funded, they have a business model, and their business model is most prosperous when the environment within which to execute their business model, which is human and drug trafficking across our southern border, when that environment is very favorable for their business model, then they do well, and they load up their entire manifest for transport. In other words, there's every human being that they can fit in their pipeline is there. Like, all the reservations are built, and every ounce of fentanyl and all this dangerous drugs that they can traffic, they're maxed out with their business model. Why? Because the environment is receptive and encouraging their business model. So if we change that environment, which we will, on January the 3rd of this coming year, the cartel knows that Republicans are going to be in charge of Congress, and we're going to have an investigative authority in our committees again, and we're going to reveal what's been happening. So One of the ways that you say reduce crime in the neighborhood is by making the neighborhood and the community aware of crimes that have taken place. So folks start watching, leaving their lights on, locking their doors. You have little neighborhood watch groups, etc.
Right.
So crime sort of runs from that exposure, and that's what's going to happen with the southern border. You're going to see a great decrease in trafficking when we take over in Congress, even though we won't have the White House. Now, what's going to happen is the White House is going to say that their policies are now working. They're reducing trafficking, but that will be 100% bullshit. The,
Right.
the cartels will be responding to the reality that Republicans are now in charge of Congress. So when we do win the White House back, which will be in the November 2024 election cycle, which means on January the 20th of 2025, we'll have a conservative Republican inaugurated as president of the state. And if Republican majorities in Congress have performed based upon constitutionalist parameters, not weak rhino milk Republican crap that we've seen in the past. But if
Right.
Republicans in our majority, if we're courageous, if we embrace our conservative core principles, if we respond to the will and the voice of we the people, then we will maintain our majority. So when we win the White House back in the 2024 election cycle, you'll see a completely restored representative republic of 50 free sovereign states. You'll have a fully restored sovereignty to our border. The cartels will take by that time, trillions of dollars that they've made on the backs of America under the Biden administration, and they will battle amongst themselves. There'll be a lot of bloodshed amongst the cartels when we shut them down at the border. I can tell you, brother, that if I had total control, if I control Congress and the White House, would have illegal drug and human trafficking eliminated in 2 weeks on the border. Because think about this, America. Isn't it insane that a bouncer at a nightclub has more authority to keep a bad guy out of the club than our professional law enforcement does at our southern border right now? By presidential mandate and executive decree, through executive authority, the President of the United States has purposefully transformed federal law enforcement that's tasked with securing our southern border. It's transformed that amazing force of American men and women, transformed them into processors, waving the illegals in, waving them in, processing them, and transporting them across our country, deep into the fabric of America. And it's going to be hard to get them out. And so that's what I mean by generational impact. America is suffering in a way that you really won't be able to measure it until another decade has passed. But I can tell you it's extreme on our infrastructure for our schools, our medical systems, our workforce, our employers, young Americans coming into the job market. They're gonna find themselves competing with millions and millions of illegals who have crossed into our country, and they're not leaving. I'm telling you, once they're here, they're not leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
But we
I've
can
had the
shut it down in two
opportunity.
weeks, brother.
I've had the opportunity to meet several of the angel families. I'm not sure if you have or not, but
I have.
and for those of you that are unaware of what angel families are, they're uh, families who have lost a loved one because of an illegal alien here in America, whether they shot or killed them, or or ran them over for a car, DUI, what have you. Uh, I've become very good friends with Dan Govich here. Actually, he's in Texas, right across the border from us, um, whose son was killed for no reason at all at a traffic light. He was just stopped, and this guy came up and assassinated him. Um, I would, if I could wave a magic wand over these Democrats, it would be to sit in a room with these angel families and let them explain their pain and their anguish and everything they've had to go through. And now to have what this administration is doing with this border happening, I basically say it's like, pissing on the graves of their loved ones because they don't care. And it's so sad. But when you can't get them to even go to the border, much less we'll probably never get them to sit down with angel families. But if they would, if any Democrat out there listening would at least take the time to sit down, and I'll set it up for you, to sit down and listen to their stories, maybe that would change some minds. But it's something that should be very dear to all of our hearts. All Americans should care about our border, because if we don't have a secure border, you don't have a country. It's that simple. And
we're losing our country down there.
Yeah. There are many of us
and we want, we should always be clear, Americans, that, again, reasonable American men and women of every shade of ideological perspective across the country, we should be able to find common ground here as well. Similar to our previous discussion regarding American energy, the American immigration system is the most compassionate and generous in the free world amongst wealthy nations. I challenge anyone to find a more compassionate and allowing and forgiving and generous immigration system. We want immigrants from across the world to come to America legally and for the right reasons. If you come in here illegally and for the wrong reasons, you're damn right I want to keep you out. That's a very reasonable position to take. So all of us have fences around our home, property. In some way, we have a fence and we have a gate, right?
Yep.
So the fence doesn't mean that we don't want to commune with you. It means we want you to come in through the gate. And America has a lot of gates. So legal immigration is something that we very much, and let me tell you, there's a lot of discussion for a long time. We've been saying, the Democrats have the agenda to bring in all these illegals because they're going to vote Democrat. Well, that is true. That is their agenda. But man, I have in my youth, I spent a lot of time in the Hispanic community. And a lot of time in Venezuela. Was immersed in the Hispanic community for a long time because my sweetheart, my first wife, was from Venezuela. And I came to know and love and understand the Hispanic culture. They're very Christian. They're very conservative, very hardworking, very principled people, very family-oriented people. I just described Republicans. You understand? So,
right.
It's part of the Democratic agenda. That's the damn truth. It's part of their agenda to let millions and millions of illegals cross into our country because they believe those people are going to vote Democrat. And that may be true for a while.
Right.
But once those illegal immigrants begin immersing themselves into the American communities across the country, once they get jobs and they want to keep some of what they've got, what they've earned, once they start comparing values and principles across an ideological perspective, they're going to realize that if they ever do get to vote, they're most likely going to associate themselves with the Republican Party. So I say to every potentially American legal voting Hispanic family across the country, you look at your principles and compare them with the Republican Party. And if you came here illegally, then I think you should go home get yourself on legal standing. And if you want to return to America, then return legally. If you are in the country legally, then welcome. Welcome to America. Look at your principles. Look at your Christianity. Look at your family values. Compare that to the modern Republican conservative movement as contrasted by the horrific socialist Democrat Party. And I think that you'll find that your deepest core principles of every family across the country should lead them to the Republican Party. So I think this thing's going to backfire, is my point. 20 years from now, the people that came here illegal, and as I told you, although I do not support like a fast track for citizenship, stuff like that, any kind of amnesty, I'm completely against that. You don't get to go to the front of the line by breaking the law.
Right.
You should go. There's an end to the line, and that's where you should be if you've broken the law. You're trying to become a citizen here, but ultimately, it's it's um it's a reasonable projection that 20 years from now, a lot of these Hispanic families coming across the southern border illegally, they're probably going to find themselves in a position to seek legal status in America and maybe even vote. And if they do, I think the Democrats are going to be imported a bunch of Republicans, future Republicans, quite frankly. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not an unreasonable man. I'm a compassionate man. Evil is not born in the mechanisms of man, my friend. The evil is born in the heart of man, and
Yes.
therefore, regardless of where we're from, what our culture is, our heritage, our color, our creed, what nationality we're born of, we're all subject to corruption since Adam, because we're all fallen since Adam. But but that also means that our nation of birth will not determine whether or not we're a good person or a bad person. Our own heart will. And I think it's important to keep a solid balance there. We want people here legally. We want them to come into our country through the avenues of legal immigration that we provide very generously as a nation. And I completely support law enforcement having the 100% authority to reject at the border an illegal crossing. Say, no, you're not
Yeah.
coming in. Turn around. You're not coming in. This will reverse the cartel's business model and resecure our border, reestablish our sovereignty as a nation.
Amen. Uh, exactly. And I couldn't have said it better myself. Congressman Higgins, thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your evening to come and talk to us. Very much appreciated. I hope you come back on the show at a later time. There's so much I'd like to talk about, and we could continue this debate or discussion throughout the night if we had the time. But you are a great
Yes,
American
sir.
patriot, and we thank you very, very much for your service to the United States of America.
I, I thank you, sir, and your beautiful family. God bless you all, and we're going to be okay. America is going to prevail because we are an anointed nation. We are children of God, and the flag that waves in glory above us is woven of thread born of our bonded spirit. So America is going to be okay.
Amen. Thank you very much, sir. Have a blessed evening.
You too, sir. Thank you. God bless.
Folks, midterms are right around the corner. It is so, so important that you get out and vote, get your family to vote, get your friends to vote, and educate them on what's actually happening today in America. There's so much divide, sadly, and so much anti because of certain statuses, such as a red baseball cap or make America great again and what that means. And there's so much coming out of the left that is insane. You know, It doesn't mean we want to bring back slavery, which I keep hearing. It doesn't mean we want to bring back things that are going to oppress anyone in this country. It means we want greatness for Americans. It means we want to grow and prosper this nation. And sadly, the left and their ideology is destroying everything they touch. And they've touched the Democrat Party. They've infiltrated themselves into that party and all forms of government, for that matter. And it happened under our watch. It happened right in front of us. And it's very difficult to grasp that. As someone that served honorably for this country for many, many years, I find it very difficult to sit back and watch what's happening to us as Americans. The infighting shouldn't be happening. And from the Democrats that I've spoken with, most of them in the past, they agree. We actually agree on more things than we disagree on, which is kind of shocking to some people. But there is that far left fringe, just like there is on the right. All right. Don't think I'm not, the far right is just as bad as the far left. And we got to come to the middle of this and understand one another and understand what makes us grow to be a great nation again. And that can be done. Look, can you think of any other country where people are literally dying to get into? No. It's right here. And when people like AOC or Alihan Omar or Rashid Tlaib go out and start preaching their left-wing ideology BS, that's all it is. But they don't represent the majority of the Democrats in this country. Every Democrat I know owns a gun and wants to protect their family. I don't know any that want to have the border wide open and let anybody come across it, for crying out loud. And every Democrat I know wants to support our men and women in law enforcement and our veterans, our military. So we got a long way to go, but we can get there. Again, I'd like to thank my guest tonight, Congressman Clay Higgins. Go check out his website, read his bio, look at the press releases, look at the things that he's putting forward, look at the things that he has said and things that he is challenging these leftist and left-leaning Democrats when it comes to what's happening on the House floor. Look into that. Look into both sides of that. And hopefully, and I have confidence that most Americans will do that and be able to piece it all together and take all the just rhetoric BS and throw it out the window, because it's not going to do us any good in any way, shape, or form. Also, please continue to pray for those in Florida in harm's way. It's going to be very, very devastating what's going to happen down there. And I know that from firsthand experience recently with Category 4 Laura that hit us, and then Delta. And of course, what happened with Hurricane Katrina. I do know that Joe Biden spoke today with the governor of Florida. They had a conversation. Biden has approved the emergency response that's going to take place, and it's going to be much needed because sadly there's going to be lots of devastation and even death. Anyway, if you haven't already done so, please go to DouglasDucote.com, check out the website, follow me here, subscribe to the channel Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Central Time. providing I don't have something else going on. I don't have a co-host anymore right now, and we do not have the producer anymore. So I'm doing it all on my own, plus trying to take care of my parents and my own family here in Lake Charles. So sometimes we aren't able to get the show out. And when that happens, I'll put it in the community section, letting you know what's going on with me, and also on the Facebook page. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders and their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. And again, thank you to Congressman Clay Higgins for joining us tonight. Folks, have a blessed evening. Keep praying for Florida. God bless you. And I hope to see you again very, very soon. Take care, everyone.